Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear viewers, I am Mohammad Tayyib Ejaz, Assistant Professor of English at Government Ghazali Degree College, Jhang. And today we are going to talk about phonetics and phonology. Indeed, today's lecture is an in-detail lecture about phonetics and phonology. So let us start. In today's lecture, we will be talking about phonetics, branches of phonetics, the speech organs and the speech production, voicing, the place of articulation and the manner of articulation, the phonology, and the difference between phonetics and phonology. So these are our main topics that we will be talking about today in our today's lecture. So what is phonetics? Phonetics is a branch of linguistics that studies speech sounds. Basically, it's concerned with the speech sounds. It involves production and classification of speech sound. It does not talk only about the production of the speech sounds, rather it also concerns about the classification of the speech sounds. Its major concern is to study how humans make and perceive sound. You know, when the sounds are made, they have always a purpose, and after making a sound, the sound travels to the receiver's end where the receivers are supposed to perceive it. So the perception of the sound is also the concern of phonetics, and the linguists who specialize in phonetics are called phoneticians. So today we will be talking about the phonetics and the phoneticians' works. Phonetics, the study of phone. Phone, which basically means a sound. So basically this is phonetics because it works on phone. In other words, it works on sound. A phone is any distinct speech sound. You must be very much clear about a phone, that a phone is actually a sound, a speech sound which is distinct, which is different from the other speech sounds. A phone means simply a sound. Now it is something important to notice that how you can say what a phone simply means a sound. In fact, it is a sound which is not supposed to be related with any language. The phone can be called a sound irrespective of any language identity. For example, we have a sound k sound, k sound. So when this k sound exists individually, you cannot differentiate whether this k sound is from English, whether this is from Urdu, whether this is from Arabic, whether this is from French, or so on. So this k sound can exist in any language, but a phonetician studies the sounds individually without giving them relations or identities to the languages. Only you can distinguish this sound k as an English sound when you talk like this. When you say this is a cat, only then you can recognize that this k sound, this a sound, and this ta sound, this is a combination of three sounds, and this combination is found only in English. So this is our differentiation between a phone and the other phonetic things. So we will discuss in our further discussion. So be very much clear that a phone means simply a sound that is not specific to any language. So we have already discussed this thing, that a phone is not specific to any language. It can only be specific when you have combination of sounds, combination of phones, and then you can come to know that this combination exists in which language. So how do we deal with the sound? The sound is dealt in three ways. All the sounds are dealt in three ways. The first step, the first thing is the production of the sound. The second thing is the transmission of the sound, and the third thing is the perception of the sound. So all the times all the sounds are dealt in three ways, in three steps. First of all, the sound is produced. After production, the sound is transmitted, and after transmission, when the sound reaches at the receiver's end, it is perceived. So this is how we deal with the sound in three ways. So as we have the three ways of dealing with the sound, we have the same three areas of phonetics, which are also called the branches of phonetics. The first one is the articulatory phonetics, which is basically concerned about the production of the sound. The branch of linguistics that deals with the production of sounds is called articulatory phonetics. The second one is acoustic phonetics, the branch of phonetics which deals with the transmission of the sound. Basically, this is not only concerned with the transmission, it is all concerned about the physical properties of the sound, and this is called acoustic phonetics. And the third branch of phonetics is the auditory phonetics, which deals with the perception of the sound. So these three are the branches of the phonetics, same as the ways that we deal a sound: the articulatory phonetics, the acoustic phonetics, and the auditory phonetics. So here you can see these three branches of phonetics: the acoustic one, the auditory one, and the articulatory one. Articulatory phonetics. Articulatory phonetics is interested in the movement of various parts of the vocal tract during the speech. During the process of speech production, it is basically interested in the movement of various parts. The vocal tract is the passage above the larynx where air passes in the production of the speech. While we produce speech, the air passes through the larynx, and that passage is called vocal tract. In simple terms, it is understanding which part of the mouth moves when we make a sound. So as we have already discussed, that articulatory phonetics is concerned about the production of the sound. So basically this articulatory phonetics deals with the movement of our mouth, in fact the movement of our speech organs while we are articulating or while we are making the sounds. Acoustic phonetics basically concerned with the physical properties of the sound. This is the study of sound waves made by the human vocal organs for communication and how the sounds are transmitted. Basically, this is also concerned with transmission as well as about the physical properties of the sounds. The sound travels from the speaker's mouth through the air to the hearer's ear through the form of vibrations in the air. Yeah, when a speaker utters something, it moves in the form of vibration in the air, and it moves towards the ear of the listener. Phoneticians analyze the frequency and the duration of the sound waves produced. So the frequency of the sounds, the frequency of the sounds which are produced also fall in this area of acoustic phonetics. Then comes the auditory phonetics regarding the perception of the sounds. It is concerned with our perception of the sounds. How do we hear and how do we perceive sounds? How do the ear, brain, and auditory nerve perceive the sounds? You know, the listening is not only concerned with the ear, rather the brain and the auditory nerve all are equally involved in the process of listening and then understanding. So this is auditory phonetics, which is concerned with the process of perception of the sounds. The physiological process involved in the reception of the speech. So whatever the processes are involved in the perception and reception of the speech fall under the category of auditory phonetics. So now let us have a look at the speech production. There are three steps which are involved in the production of the speech. Number one, initiation. This is the setting of the air in motion through the vocal tract. Then comes phonation, the modification of airflow as it passes through the larynx. And number 3 is the articulation, the final process where the airflow is shaped to generate particular sound types. So we can say that there are 3 steps which are involved in the process of speech production, or even you can call it articulation, and those 3 steps are initiation, the setting of the air, the phonation, the modification of the airflow, and the final articulation, the final process of uttering the sounds. So how do we say things? How do we speak? We speak with the help of certain organs which are called speech organs, and we also call them articulators or the vocal organs. So the speech organ, the sound is produced simply by expelling the air from the lungs. You must keep it in your mind that when the whole of the process of articulation depends upon the expelling of the air, pushing air outside from the lungs. Lungs are the initiation point of the sounds. The energy required to articulate is provided from the lungs. So various organs are involved in this process of speech production or articulation, and those are called the organs of speech. Just have a look at them: the lips, the teeth, the tongue, the alveolar ridge, then comes the hard palate, then comes the velum, then comes uvula, and here comes the glottis. So we can say that we have the speech organs: lips, teeth, tongue, alveolar ridge, hard palate, velum, uvula, and glottis. All these are called the speech organs, or the articulators, or the organs of speech. Now let us have a look at those speech organs as they exist in the human body. So we can see over here that there are certain groups formed, which are basically formed on the physical existence of the speech organs. Just let us have a look at number 1, the lips. We can see over here that lips are located at 2 places, the upper lip and the lower lip. So in between these upper and lower lips, we can also see the second articulator, the second speech organ, the teeth. Then comes alveolar ridge. Alveolar ridge is located over here. If you see over here, alveolar ridge is the place in which our teeth are fixed, just above the teeth. That place is called alveolar ridge. You can find over here. Then comes tongue. You are very well aware of tongue. You can see this tongue in this green circle, and just have a look that this tongue is further divided into 4 parts. Number 1, the tongue tip, number 2, the tongue blade, number 3, the tongue front, and number 4, the tongue back. So tongue is also divided into 4 parts, and each part has its own place while speaking, while making sounds. Then comes the larynx, and after larynx come the vocal cords or the vocal folds. You can locate vocal folds over here. They are just located around the Adam's apple. We will discuss further that what is their purpose. Over here you can find larynx. This whole area is called larynx. Then comes the epiglottis. Epiglottis is just situated around the larynx area, around the pharynx area, and then comes pharynx. All these things you can find over here. Here is the larynx, there is epiglottis above larynx, pharynx is above both of them, and then next is uvula. This number 10 is uvula. You are well aware of this hanging part. We will discuss next in our slides. And then comes the hard palate. This area is called hard palate. The area behind the alveolar ridge, that is called the hard palate. So these are 11 main speech organs that we have discussed over here. The hard palate is further subdivided into two areas. Basically, palate is divided into two areas, the hard palate and the soft palate. Hard palate is the front part of the palate and the soft palate is the hind part of the palate. Above all these is the nasal cavity, that the cavity which basically forms our nose. So this is the hind part of our nose and is called nasal cavity. You can also find esophagus, the food pipe, and trachea over here, the windpipe. So let us move on. Just you can see further the same picture in a very clear way. You can find all of those speech organs over here. The alveolar ridge, that is the place where our teeth are fixed. The lips, the upper lip, the lower lip, and in between those upper and lower lips is the teeth. Then comes the tongue, just resting behind the teeth, which is further subdivided into tongue tip, the blade, the front area, and the hind area where the tongue is fixed. You can see over here at the lower end the vocal folds. The vocal folds are vibrating membranes, a pair of vibrating membranes. We will discuss further. Then you can see the esophagus over here, which is not actually concerned with the speech production. You can see the trachea, the windpipe. You can see the larynx. This is larynx. You can see the epiglottis. You can see the pharynx, and then you can see this hanging part in the far end of our throat, which is called uvula. Over here is the hard palate, the front area of the palate, and this soft palate, the hind area of the palate, and this whole place that you can see over here, this is the nasal cavity. So these articulators or speech organs are further divided into two categories, the active and the passive articulators. Active articulator is the articulator that move towards another articulator in the production of the speech, in the production of the speech sound. So you can say that the status of being an active articulator is simply relying on the movement of the articulator, that if an articulator moves towards another articulator in the process of speech production, then the articulator will be called as an active articulator, and the passive articulator is the articulator that remains stationary, that does not move during the production of the sounds, and that is why, because of being stationary, because of being stagnant, immobile, that articulator is called passive articulator. So here comes a very important concept in the sounds, and that is the voicing of the sounds. This voicing of the sounds is an important topic, and you must grip it in a very detailed way. So in English language, two types of sounds exist, the voice sounds and the voiceless sounds. So we will discuss from where this concept of voice comes for the sounds. Sounds fall into one of these categories with respect to the behavior of vocal folds. In fact, we give the status of voiced sounds or voiceless sounds with reference to the behavior of the vocal folds while the process of speech production is being done. In other words, how do the vocal folds behave when a speech sound is produced? This behavior of the vocal fold is actually the main reason behind giving this aspect of voicing or voicelessness to the sounds in English. So before further discussing this voicing, just have a look at this vocal fold or vocal cord. So you can say that this vocal fold, this vocal cord is basically existing just around our Adam's apple outside our neck, where Adam's apple is situated outside our neck. At that very place, inside the pipe is this vocal fold, the pair of vocal folds existing. The vocal fold, also known popularly as vocal cord, are a pair of membranes stretched horizontally across the larynx. Over here you can see the larynx in this box, and this is the pair of vocal folds that we call the vocal cords or the vocal fold. Here you can see two possible ways of the action of vocal folds. In this first picture, you can see that the vocal folds are fully closed. This is the membrane type thing, and from the middle you can see the cut, and this in this place in this picture these vocal folds are fully closed, whereas in the second picture you can say that vocal folds are open. They might be vibrating, and during vibration they are open. So they vibrate while the production of speech is being done. During the articulation process, these vocal folds vibrate, thus change the flow of air being expelled from the lungs during phonation. In the process of phonation, when the air is being moved out from the lungs, is being expelled from the lungs, these vocal folds actually vibrate at the passing of the sound, passing of the air from the windpipe or the vocal. You can see over here again a further detailed picture of vocal folds. They just exist over here at this area, and you can see that how these vocal folds are present. This is fold 1, this is fold 2, and at this place you can say that they are open, and here is the trachea, the windpipe. So by just having a look at this diagram, can you locate these things? Number 1, this thing. Number 2, this thing. We will also call this number 2. Number 3 over here. Just number 4 over here. Just number 5 over here. And this all, let me tell you, number 6. This is this much easy that even I can tell, the tongue, and this tongue is further divided into 4 parts: A, B, C, and D. Then what else? Certain parts are over here. This number 7, this number 8 over here, 8, 9, 10, and this one that we have already discussed, 11. So just for your revision sake, just name these parts that I have given number so that you people may revise it. So you have come to know about vocal folds, vocal cords. Let us have a look how to find the voicing of the sound. How do we find the voicing aspect of the sound? The voicing is decided according to the behavior of the vocal folds. We have already discussed it. So while producing a sound, put your finger around the area where the vocal folds exist. i.e. on your Adam's apple. Just put your finger on your Adam's apple and then just say some sound. While you will be articulating, while you will be uttering some sound, either you will feel vibration at the time of articulation of the sounds or you won't. So there will be only two sort of behaviors over there when you people will be articulating. The first one is the vibration of the cartilage, the vibration of the vocal folds, and the second one is the stagnation or non-vibration of the vocal fold. So these two behaviors give us the voicing aspect and the voicelessness aspect. So a sound is called voice sound if the vocal folds vibrate when this sound is produced. Very simply, just put your finger at your Adam's apple and try to utter any of these sounds: b, d, m, z. So when you will be uttering any of these sounds by putting your finger on your Adam's apple, you will clearly be feeling the vibration at the time of the production. So we can say that these sounds b, d, m, and z, these are voiced sounds. So as we have already discussed that the behavior of the vocal folds decide whether the sound is voiced or the voiceless. So we found over here that these sounds are voiced if the vocal folds vibrate at the time of articulation of the concerned sounds. Then comes the voiceless sounds. A sound is called voiceless sound if the vocal folds do not vibrate when it is produced. You have the same formula of putting your finger at your Adam's apple and trying to utter any of the sound. So when you will be saying s, when you will be saying t, when you will be saying f, or when you will be uttering the p sound, you will feel none of the vibration at your Adam's apple. So these sounds are definitely called voiceless sounds because there is no vibration at vocal folds or vocal cords at the time of the production of these sounds. So by now we have clearly discussed about the phonology, the branches of phonology, the speech production process, the speech organs, and the voicing and the voicelessness of the sounds. So now we will be talking about the place of articulation. A place of articulation refers to the place where a sound is made. It is all concerned about the making place of the sound, at which place the sound is being made. Place of articulation is the point of contact where an obstruction occurs in the vocal tract between an active or moving articulator, typically one part of the tongue, and a passive articulator, typically one part of the roof of the mouth. So a place of articulation simply means where in mouth or in our articulator areas where a sound is being made. Sounds are given names according to their places of articulation. So when we will be talking in detail about these things, we will come to know that every sound has its name and that name is given with reference to the place of the articulation at what place that sound is being made. So the very first sound that we will be talking is bilabial sound. As you can simply feel that bi stands for two and the labia stands for lips. So these sounds are the sounds which are created with the help of two lips. You can find over here two lips in this cross-sectional diagram. Over here you can find a very beautiful pair of lips. So the sounds which are produced with the help of upper lip and lower lip are called bilabial sounds. And in the production of a bilabial sound, the lips come into contact with each other to form an effective constriction. You people might remember that in fact while the process of speech production is involved, this is the constriction or the restriction or the friction which is involved in the production of speech sound. So in this bilabial sound, both of the lips come into contact with each other and form a very effective sort of constriction to produce bilabial sound. And this, let us have an example of bilabial sounds. So the first example is this p sound, p. Just try to utter this p sound and you will clearly come to know that upper lip comes and joins the lower lip while the production of this p sound, as we can find this p sound in the word purse, and in this word rap. Both p sounds are found in both of these words. The second example of bilabial sound is b sound. B as in back, as in cap, or as in black. And the third example of bilabial sound is m sound, as in mat, or as in clam, or even as in calm. So we can say that a bilabial sound is a sound that involves two lips joining each other while at the time of production, and we have the pa sound, we have the ba sound, and we have the ma sound as the bilabial sounds. And just remember one thing, that these sounds, when we are talking about sound, the sound is always written in the slash. So every sound is just written in between the two slashes. Then comes the labiodental sound. So you must just remember this name, labio and dental. This is divided into labio and dental, and this word labio definitely means lips and dental definitely means teeth. So you can remember it in this way, that labiodental sounds are the sounds which involve which are produced with the help of lips as well as the teeth. So this lip stands for lower lip, the labial, and the upper teeth, the dental. You can find it over here in this picture that the lips and the teeth are simply highlighted over here. Here you can find one thing, and these are the teeth and lips marked over here. So the lower lip and the upper teeth come into contact with each other to form an effective constriction, and the sounds produced are called labiodental sound. As just have a look in the example, the first sound is f sound. F, just when you try to say f sound, you can clearly feel the lower lip joining, moving towards the upper teeth. And the second example is v sound as in wine, as in have. So the lower lip just tries to join the upper teeth. Then comes the dental sounds. Dental basically stands for the teeth. You people already know about it. The dental sound, the dental word is concerned with teeth. So the dental sounds involve the tongue tip, which is an active articulator, making contact with the upper teeth. So the dental sounds are involved in the process of production two articulators, the tongue tip and the upper teeth. So these two articulators are involved in the process of production of dental sounds. And in English we have two dental sounds. Number one is the th sound and number two is the sound. Just have a look at this th sound, as you can find in thick, the first sound of the word thick, and the second sound of the word bath, th sound, bath, bath. And the second example is the sound, as by itself the word the, and as you can see it over here in the word rather, 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 as even you can find it in this word this, the sound, this, and the word these, the sound, these, this, that, these. So we have two dental sounds, th and the, in English language. Here comes the alveolar sounds. We have already talked about alveolar ridge. You can see it over here in this picture. The alveolar ridge is the place where our teeth are fixed. This place is called alveolar ridge. So alveolar sounds are created when the tongue is raised to the alveolar ridge to block or constrict airflow. Our tongue either raises upwards, it touches, or rather it tries to touch the alveolar ridge, and the sounds produced are called alveolar sounds. Just have a look at the alveolar sound. The first alveolar sound is n sound, n, as you can see it in the word no, or even you can see it in the word man. The second alveolar sound is t sound, t, t. Just utter these sounds one by one and utter slowly and try to locate the process of your articulators, and you will be easily remembering these names. The t sound as in tab, as in batch, then d sound as in dip and as in bad, then s sound as in suit, as in bus, sa, basically s. The z sound as in zit, as in jazz, and the la sound as in luck and as in full or fully. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We have 6 alveolar sounds in English. Then comes the post-alveolar sounds. If alveolar is the place, alveolar ridge is the place where our teeth are fixed, then definitely post-alveolar ridge is the place behind, a little bit behind the alveolar ridge, and that's why it is called post-alveolar. Post and alveolar. You people are well aware of this word post, and even you might be aware of pre. Pre stands for before and post stands for after. From these words, if you remember the prepaid cell account and the postpaid, even you people might remember prenatal, postnatal, prenatal care, postnatal care. Even you remember the post-war issues, the pre-war preparations, etc. So this post-alveolar basically stands for alveolar a bit away from alveolar. Post-alveolar sounds are sounds which occur when the tongue blocks or constricts airflow at the point just beyond the alveolar ridge. So the tongue blocks or constricts the airflow at the point just beyond the alveolar ridge. And just have a look at this example. Sh sound, sh, as in short, as in brash, as in ship, as in show, as in harsh. So this sh sound is post-alveolar sound. Post-alveolar sound. Then comes j sound, j sound. If you look at this example, you can find this j sound in the word vian, and you can equally found this example, this sound in the word measure. So this j sound is also post-alveolar sound. Then comes the ch sound, ch. Just have a look at this phonetic IPA symbol, so that this sound was, this symbol is used for the sh sound, and if it is accompanied by this t sound before it, then this is used for ch sound. So you can say that this is written like this, the ta and the fa signs are over there. So let us have the example. The example of ch sound as it's found in the word cheek, cheek, or as it is found in the word match, or even it is found in the word watch, or even it is found in the word rich. So this cha sound is the example of post-alveolar sound. Then comes the fourth example of this post-alveolar, the j sound, and this is written by the symbol of D along with Z sound, and this is the symbol of ja sound as it is found in the word jam, jam, or even it is found in the word badge, badge, the ja sound. Then comes the palatal sounds. The palatal. You people are aware of this palate, which we had discussed in both ways in two parts. The palate is divided into the hard palate, the front part of the palate, the hard palate, and the hind part of the palate, the soft palate. So we have the palatal sounds. The tongue body, while producing palatal sound, raises up, the tongue body raises up towards the hard palate in the mouth. Basically it does not touch, it simply raises, or you can say it tries to touch. It tries to move upward towards the palate in the mouth. English has only one palatal consonant, only one sound is there, and that is j sound, j sound. And as you can see it in the example yes, or you can see it in the example bayu. So only one palatal sound is there in English, that is ya sound, just like. The next sound under discussion is velar sound. So velar consonants are created when you raise the back of your tongue to the velum to block or restrict the airflow. So when the back part of your tongue raises and tries to approach velum, the sounds are called the velar sound. Just have a look at the examples of velar sound. The first sound is ing sound, ing sound, ing sound. This is written like this, as you can find it in the word going, going, or uncle, uncle. Just try to differentiate this n sound in the word uncle, which is quite different from the alveolar sound. Then comes the ka sound, as in kite, kite, back. Then comes the g sound, as in good, good, or in bug. And then comes the w sound, v sound, as it comes in wet and in Howard. So we can say that we have four velar sound: the ing sound, the k sound, the g sound, and the w sound. And just keep it in mind that any sound is represented, is written in these two slashes. Then comes the glottal sounds. The glottis we have already discussed. This is actually the vocal folds, the vocal fold area, and the sounds produced at this vocal fold area are called glottal sounds. Basically these are not consonants because they are produced just uh, like vowel sounds with very minimum sort of friction or restriction, and just we have this her sound as a glottal sound, as we say it in hi, her, or in Hamas. So this her sound is a glottal sound. So we will have a revision over here. We started the place of articulation from this bilabial sound. Then we talk about labiodental sounds. Here are the dental consonants. Here are the alveolar consonants. Then here are the post-alveolar consonants. Then we have palatal sounds. We have velar sounds, and we have glottal sound. And all these sounds that we discussed are consonant sounds. They are consonant because they are produced with some sort of blockage, restriction, constriction, or even some sort of friction when they are being produced. So any sound which requires any sort of blockage, constriction, restriction, friction, or blockage, that sound is called a consonant sound. On the other hand, if a sound is created with none of these things that we already discussed, means it is created with minimum friction or restriction, without any sort of blockage, rather it is produced with a flow of air, then the sound is called a vowel sound. And if this is not produced with a flow, rather it is produced with the blockage or restriction or friction, then the sound is called a consonant sound. This is the end of today's lecture, and as far as your questions, your suggestions are concerned, so your questions are welcome in the comment box. You can ask your question and wait for the reply. Thank you very much for being with us. Thanks a lot.